Hey guys, something fun and a little bit different here on our restoration series. So I was going to take this radio and just go through a cosmetic restoration, put it back together and install it in the car just to save some time. But as I open it up, I really think that we should share this with you. It's just so interesting inside. So this particular radio is a 66X series, and the X indicates the last in its series. And this particular one would have come with an external amplifier, and that straps to the case. And the way these things work, you really have to have the entire unit put together completely, as everything kind of shares ground with everything else. So if you don't have really good ground on these, you're going to end up with some issues. So there was one part in here that was actually broken, and that particular part here is right here. So this plastic tab snaps through the metal casing here, and part of that ear is broken off. So what happens when I slide my needle back and forth, you can see that piece jumping around there. It really needs to be seated in there and working properly. Otherwise our needle's not going to move. That was the only mechanical thing I could find wrong with it. And I talked to our friend Ingo, who is the specialist with Blaupunkt, and he has quite an inventory of older, used, in very good condition radios that he basically cannibalizes and parts out for some of the repairs. So he's able to replace this part for me, which I couldn't imagine if he wasn't around where I would find something like that. It's just not made anymore. So look at some of the technology in this thing. It's just really amazing. Just really, really cool to look at. And just the brains have put all this together back in those days. Really just amazing. Very, very impressive. And then our main circuit board here. Look at that. That's just awesome in there. And then I'm using just a little bit of petroleum grease and a small paintbrush to get down in there and lubricate all our sliding mechanisms, any kind of gears. Just making sure everything's got good lubrication in there. And this is our switch here that's going to switch over from FM to shortwave to AM. And then looking at the side here, and then the bottom side. Wow, look at that. That is just so cool. Pretty amazing how it all works and how it was all engineered. And I've already had this piece off here to repaint and lubricate those push buttons behind there and repaint our tabs. So we're going to try and re-zinc plate this. It's pretty ratty condition. I'm going to stick a couple pictures in here of what this radio looked like before we dismantled. Okay, so we just received our new replacement part from vintageblau.com, and that's going to go in here. Let me go ahead and wrestle with that, get that put into place, and then we'll put it back together. Okay, so I think we're ready to go here. We've got all our zinc plating refinished and ready to go. Radio's lubricated as best we can do it. All our hardware is refinished, and also we got our new cam replaced in there. Here's a close-up look at our old one. You can see the centering pin there has been split in half, and that's why it won't work. So we got our new one put into place there. You can see now it's actually working the way it's supposed to. Everything moving back and forth properly. So I don't know if this radio will actually produce sound. Don't know. Before we took it apart, we never did any kind of testing on it. But for some reason, if it doesn't produce sound for us, I will definitely be sending it in to our friend Ingo to get that corrected. And then also they do some kind of a servicing where they do like an alignment on the AM, FM, and shortwave tuning on these things. So get everything dialed back in. So if it doesn't work, we can always send it in, but cosmetically we should be there. So let's go ahead and put it together and see if she works. And then replacing the plastic shield so we don't have any short circuits. And then sliding our casing back together. And then we're going to reinstall our shielding on the main body. Originally these were riveted in with a plastic rivet. Had to break those to get it off of there. But just a little contact cement in the same location should do the job. Just needs to protect from shorting out. And then this one will go right here. And then our top one just has one in the corner, which will go in this location. And then this plastic arm sits down in here. It's got like a hex style fitting in there. Once that's seated in there, it doesn't want to turn. So it does some kind of adjustment. What kind of adjustment? I have no idea, but that's the location. So starting with our left side, we want to make sure that this standoff here is engaged in this circuit board here. If it's not engaged, you can see how it's spacing it now. If it's not engaged, what will happen, this could come up and short circuit. So it's got to be clipped in there. And then also we have a shield on this side just to make sure we have total clearance in there. And we'll just nut that down. And then next we'll put our little 90-degree hold down tab. And then one last look just to make sure we got everything where we want it. We're not puncturing any wires. We don't have anything short-circuiting. Everything looks to be okay. Okay, now we can cover it up. It just pretty much snaps in there. All right, and then trying to figure these clips out. So it's got one that's going to stick inside the casing here, and one that's going to lock in. That's going to go in here like that, and like that, and then ratchet over. So we'll nut that right there. And then this side locks in here. In there. Okay, so I finally figured out what that guy is. So that's for a pin connector. Some kind of ground right there. Now we got our amplifier plugged into our radio. Getting ready to put in a couple of important pieces here. So these little brass tabs that are hanging down here, these move the needle to pre-selected stations. So this is going to slide over the arm, and when it's pressed in, it'll trip these brass tabs and then move that needle. Pretty complicated piece of engineering. And then we have these little bitty retainer clips. This is going to slip over the back side of this area here and then lock in right in there. So what happens is when the radio is installed in the dash, these will push on and this will clip in and create a tension over the front of the shaft. Okay, so we're almost ready to install it in the dash. A couple more things I want to do here. I'm going to make a decal out of this label and stick it back on there. What I'll do is put some two-sided Scotch tape on the back and some clear on the front just to protect it, and then stick it back in location there. And really at this point it's ready to install without the trim. But I'm going to go ahead and trim it out here on the bench. We'll take a look at it and see what it looks like. All right, so we got her all trimmed out there. That's going to be the finished look. Got our decal put into place there. Everything's all shined up, ready to go. Got our plug-ins where they need to be. So really all we need to do now is take it outside, put it in the car, and see if she'll produce some sound. Okay, so I've already had it in and out of the dashboard about a half a dozen times, just getting everything set up, adjusted, and bracket adjustment and length of wires to get everything to work out just right. Let's look at a couple of things that'll need to be addressed before we put it in there, and then we'll slide it in. So the first adjustment that's probably going to need to be addressed is going to be the spacer right here. So what happens is this sits against this nut, and your dashboard materials will be in here. If you don't have enough threads coming through the dash, you may have to shave this down. If you have too much threads coming through the dash, you'll need to add some more spacer in there for this nut right here to tighten down on top of it. I ended up taking about 2 millimeters off of this to get everything to work out. With the added chrome on here, the extra buildup in epoxy paint on the dashboard, and difference in thickness of aluminum dashboard trim, we lost our threads here, so that's why I had to trim that down. And then we'll be using a 2 amp short style fuse in the fuse block. Having a look at the inside of the dashboard here, so making sure we got plenty of area to put it in. And then also this bracket here, this takes some real playing with to get the correct bend and distance on here. Had to fool with that quite a bit to get the sizing to work out. And then also our speaker block has to be the correct length, and fuse block wire. And that should be it. So let's go ahead and slide it in, see what she looks like. So looking at her from underneath, there's not much room under here to cram this camera in here, but I will try and show you what needs to happen. So here's our nut or a bolt that screws into the back of the radio, and the shape of that bracket can be adjusted for up and down and in and out. So depending on what you need to do, there's some adjustment through that guy. And then we've got our speaker wire block, which I have secured on the top of that, and then also our fuse block that's also secured on the top. And we have our coaxial cable, which is going to be for our antenna. That should pretty much be it. So let's close up the front half and hook up the battery and see if she'll work. And there's our finished look on the front side. And underneath. And the bottom side with everything tied off. Power on. Well, I can hear the speaker popping, but I'm not getting any audio. So it's got output, but no sound. You can hear it switching on and off. Just don't have any sound. Oh, what a bummer. Really hoping to catch a break here, but it doesn't look like I'm going to get one. So I'm going to give Vintage Blau a call and talk to our friend Ingo and see what he thinks based on the symptoms here. Maybe I can resolve it from this end. If not, I'll definitely be boxing this up and mailing it off and have him go through it, as it would definitely need somebody who is expertise with working with these radios. Okay guys, so we ended up having to send our radio off to vintageblau.com. And as you can see, we just received it back here. And I wanted to share this part with you because I really appreciate when whenever you send something out and the service is really good. They send it back to you with a lot of care taken in the packaging and shipping. It's really, really appreciated, and I just want to share this with you. It's packed really well, nice and neat. You got a box inside a box here, and so we really appreciate that. Let's go ahead and open this up and see what's inside. Well, that definitely looks like our radio. So apparently what the problem was two bad capacitors. One of them was completely shot. The other one was putting out very little juice. So apparently one of them was in the main unit. One of them was in the amplifier. So that's been resolved. And then also, while he had it, this right here is an auxiliary port. And this cap comes off, and this can be plugged into the auxiliary port. So he has a friend that makes these up, and we talked about that, how to convert this and make it more of a modern convenience. So we can actually plug into this port here, and with this connection here, we can plug this into our iPhone, Android, and completely modernize this with a cord interface. How about that? So we'll have the original classic internals and externals, and have some modern features too. That's going to be very cool. So if you have an early radio that needs repair or some kind of service work, I'm definitely going to recommend VintageBlau.com. Our friend Ingo, his depth of knowledge is most impressive, and he has quite an inventory on older radios that he can cannibalize and get your radio put back together on some of the stuff he has in stock there. So if you got a radio that needs repair, definitely give him a call. Also, one of the things he does I think is really cool is before he ships your radio out to you after he's repaired it, he's going to send you a short video clip going through all the functions. You can listen to the sound quality, and you'll have complete confidence that when he sends you an invoice, you're going to be getting something that's up 100%. So that being said, let's take a quick look at the video clip Ingo sent to me going through all the functions and the sound. While we're having a look at that, I'm going to go ahead and put this back in the car, hook everything back up, and see if we can finally get some sound.
They scored, and they didn't have a whole lot of good opportunities, and the Islanders had a ton, and there's schemes like tomorrow, me.
Hi, this is.
He's singing "There's a Bathroom on the Right."
They contractually shed 20 to 40 plus pounds in only 40 days. NJ.
Okay, so we're all put into place here and ready to go. So before we fire up some sound here, there's a couple of things worth noting we should probably go over. First, I did have this video uploaded at one point onto YouTube, and we got flagged for some copyright infringement issues. So we got to be real careful how long we're playing a soundbite and what we're playing. So we're going to just be real careful with that, but we will hear some sound. And also, when I put the radio in first, I wasn't getting any reception at all. And I know it wasn't the radio because we've already heard that play. So it had to have been the antenna. So I called Woody's Custom Shop and spoke with Charles, and we went through all the different things that could possibly be wrong with an antenna connection, anywhere from ground to cable. So it turns out the cable that I was using, which is the one that came off the radio from the car originally, I plugged into the new antenna, and there's just enough difference between that cable and the one that came with the new antenna, which I've switched out now, that it will not work with the original cable in there. So we had to switch that out, and we thank Charles for that, and so we're up and running now. We got full reception. AM reception is pretty vague, especially with my location, but we do get some FM. Let's go ahead and hook this up and see what she sounds like.
Races. Jessica, the White House is saying is the president.
Alright, so you can see we're getting some sound out of there, and the reception is like so-so, especially in the booth here, as I got so much aluminum foil surrounding the car for UV protection. Okay, so then the second thing we want to look at is going to be the accessory cord. So the radio will not work if your accessory cord is plugged in and not plugged into a device. So if we just plug in our accessory cord and leave it dangling, you're not going to get anything to come through your AM and FM. You'll get a bunch of feedback and it won't work properly. So if you use your accessory cord, you'll definitely need to leave this plugged in and just use a device for it and bypass the AM FM. If you don't want to use the accessory cord, then you need to unplug it completely and put the plug in where this goes. I'll show you that here in a second. It will have to be plugged or you won't get any sound coming through there either. So we've got our accessory cable plugged in. So this would be the plug that would need to be plugged in place if we're not using the cord. Otherwise you won't get any sound coming through the radio at all. That has to be in place. If we're using the cord, then we're pretty much good to go. We just plug into our device. I'm pretty sure we're not going to have any copyright issues with this. Let's hear what that sounds like. Okay guys, so that's about as shiny and smooth as we're going to be able to get this. So from here we're going to take it to some alcohol cleaning and then wire them up. Alright, so kind of a goofy sounding guy there, but at least you get the idea what the sound is coming through our speaker there. And we don't have any copyright issues we have to worry about. So also, you know, if you're using your smartphone with the radio and this accessory cord, the sound quality coming through the speaker is just awesome. No need to have your AM FM radio at all with that kind of play. So I'm probably just going to run it with this cord for a while, and that way I can get some much better quality sound. So I'm going to put some helpful links in the video description box down below, so please be sure to check those out. If you're working on your radio or need an antenna, we can definitely get you taken care of. Now we've got a dashboard 100% complete. Time to move on to our front seats. Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.